can all get in front of whatever AC we have, or in my case, multiple fans. At least until this passes, which Ken says Ken Johnson says will be very soon, so that's good. Okay, so we're going to call the regular meeting of the Kent Inland Wetlands Commission to order at whatever time it is, 7:03 maybe, 7:02. And for the record, show that regular members, myself, Lynn Warner, Ken Johnson, Marge Smith, Paul Yagid, and Ken Dietz are here. Alternate Anthony Palumbo is also here, along with our land use administrator, Donna Hayes, and various members of the public who are representing or are applicants. All right? Does everybody have a chance?
Lynn?
Yes, ma'am.
Ken Dietz asked that we elevate Anthony Palumbo in case Ken is in traffic and can't vote, I think was his logic.
I just don't have the ability to review materials, and if we don't need him to, then that's great. I'll just abstain. So I just don't feel right voting on something I can't see.
Okay. Actually, I'm always confused by this rule, Donna. We've got one with me and Ken and Marge and Paul. We've got 4 members of the commission.
That's a
Can we
quorum.
elevate an alternate?
That's a quorum.
You've got a quorum.
Okay,
Okay, so we can't elevate an alternate, is that right?
Right.
okay.
Okay. All right, so Anthony, thank you for being here, and you're free to ask questions and share your opinion about anything, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting? And if so, were there any changes or corrections?
No. Well done.
There's a lot of minutes here.
She does a good job.
Thank you.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting as written.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Okay, great. Moving on. Okay. Application 128522, Dan and Cheryl Robb.
Bart is here, Bart Clark is here representing them.
Bart? Is that what you said? Okay. Bart, why don't you?
Is that better?
Hi.
There he is.
There you
Yeah,
are.
that's good. If you
Yeah.
could, welcome, and if you could walk us through the application in terms of what
Sure,
it is that's being proposed, we'd
Dan.
appreciate it.
Sure, Dan and Cheryl Robb have property data down at 273 Kent Road, which is Route 7, just north of Bulls Bridge Road, by about a half mile. And they're across the road from the river at that point, and they have roughly a little more than 2-acre parcel of land, and have an existing house, pond, and are looking to put a small 20 by 26 garage on their property. Their property is fairly well constrained by a variety of wetlands in the area. We didn't have them flagged by a soil scientist, but provided an approximate boundary. It's pretty clear where the boundary of the wetlands are. And it's more or less where they stop mowing. So, it's not going to be off by more than a couple of feet one way or the other by the evidence that's out there. So, just given the extent of what they're really trying to do out there is pretty small. We're just trying to maintain expenses if they could. So, I can try to share my screen if that.
No, I think, does anybody need the screen shared?
No,
Everybody's good with it? Or
yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah, how far away from the wetland boundary?
it's
is
roughly 4 feet away from the wetland boundary. Excuse me.
And is it actually a wetlands boundary or the regulated area boundary? Or it's actually
No,
the
it
wetland boundary?
is actually the wetland boundary. There's on the property that they have a driveway that comes in. And the driveway takes a turn and it heads toward a little intermittent stream in the back, so that you have a wetlands boundary and a small intermittent stream just beyond the driveway. So
And
there's,
do you have the regulated area on here?
the whole property is regulated. There's no, it's well off the between the wetland boundary and the pond in the back. It's, every inch of the property is regulated. So
Donna, did you have a chance to look at this property?
I did not know, but I know where it is, just from driving back and forth past it.
there's no area other than where the house is and where the proposed leach I'll spit this out in a minute. The proposed leaching system for the B100A requirement, the reserve leaching area, there are the only areas that are far enough out of wetlands in order to be able to get out of the wetlands. So they're pretty constrained as to where they can locate this garage. And it's in an area where they have typically, mowed the lawn. And it's and again, it's right at the edge of the wetlands where this garage would be.
Well, I have a question. I assume as I'm looking at it here, that the garage will not alter the flow of any water.
No, the grade change around the garage is going to be very minimal. We don't want to go down too deep because obviously there's going to be a groundwater issue right away. So it's just going to be whatever it takes to get down below frost line and then build up from there. So it's and the grade, the Robs have a very well manicured lawn and the landscape area around the house with many mature trees. And this is the only area that doesn't have the mature trees, and this is kind of where they one of the reasons why the garage is forced into the location that it is.
Uh-huh. Does it ever
And so
flood
there's-
there?
No,
Okay.
So there's no way you can move the garage further, further back away from the wetland?
Once we get further back away from the wetlands, we'd be right on top of the existing driveway. And we can move the existing drive. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. So where it says parking, just above the proposed garage, is that an existing driveway?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry. Okay, I see that now. All right. And you can't move it a little further because then there wouldn't be room to turn?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to turn or, and, we'd be in the middle of the driveway at that point, so.
Okay.
And the driveway itself can't be relocated because just north of the driveway is where their existing septic system is.
I see no major problem here.
Well, Marge or Paul?
No,
No, it's a lawn area as it is. It's not going to change anything by putting a building right there.
Yeah, is there gonna be is that gonna be on a slab or is it that,
Well, we're gonna have to put frost walls in, just the 4-foot high concrete walls. That, we really can't put it on just a slab. There's got to be some sort of foundation to make the garage resistant to frost at that point. So if we put it on a slab, the garage would be floating up and down all over the place.
Yeah, with frost, yeah.
Is the blue line the silt fence or the green line is the silt fence?
The blue line with the squares is a silt fence. And the green line with the circles is the the approximate wetland boundary.
What is the wetland boundary? What is the wetland there? Is it open water swamp? Is it,
No, well, on this side of the property, there's a small, as you walk away south of the driveway, you get into a small shelf, terrace, and then it drops down into an intermittent stream. And on the other side of the stream, it's a classic swamp skunk
Not on
cabbage.
this side.
No.
The stockpiled material, are they going to be excess after the construction, or is that all going to be used on site?
There's likely going to be some excess material that's going to have to get taken off site just because of, we're going to dig out material, and the material is not going to be adequate for backfill of the underneath the slab, or, around the foundation on the inside of the building. So there'll be, topsoil that we strip off and reuse. And the areas that we dig down for the foundation is most of that's just going to have to be excess spoils.
And that'll be taken off site?
Yes, yep.
Are you going to have two separate piles then?
There's enough room there for two separate piles. I would imagine the contractor would want to keep them separate, but I'm not the contractor, so I can't precisely tell you exactly how they'll make the mechanics work. So.
I have a question. When you dig these footings for the garage, will you be digging into water? Will water be seeping into the footings?
It depends upon the time of year, and and obviously, if we dig right now, no. If we even into September, if we get all our permits in place, the groundwater will be low enough where we won't have a free water level. But it'll be wet. The soil will be wet. It's likely that they'll have to put some gravel down before they start building the footings and the foundation walls.
I see. The reason I ask is if it's wet under the slab in the wintertime, that could heave the floor. It won't affect the wetlands per se, but it could affect you if it's that wet underneath the floor of the garage.
Yeah, precisely why we got to remove a lot of material and put the open graded stone, the gravel, 3/4 inch gravel stone underneath the slab, so that when we know that there's going to be some frost underneath there, but when the frost does happen, it'll push up into the stone rather than pushing against the slab, so there's some space there.
Yeah, okay.
All right, the rear of the garage, which is right up against the wetlands line that you have outlined there, and the siltation fence. When you excavate that and backfill it, are you going to be beyond what you're showing for a silt fence, or do you have enough to work there?
It's going to be very tight, and we're going to try to keep it far enough away from the wetlands boundary, and the silt fence will be right on top of the wetlands boundary. Of course, on the map, I couldn't show one on top of the other because you wouldn't be able to see both, but we'll be digging right along the wetlands boundary and using the swing of the bucket, so that the machine's going to be perpendicular to the long section of the garage.
Yep.
And the bucket will swing 180 degrees and be digging in both directions, so that they're not digging into the wetlands or have the machine located in the wetlands when they're doing the excavation.
And
You're saying
when
neither-
construction is complete, that will also be replanted?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So you're saying none of those two things that you mentioned will happen, digging into the wetlands or machinery in the wetlands. Is that correct?
I would say it's we have to do whatever we can to keep out of those wetlands, and that would be the primary goal.
Well, we actually don't want any equipment in the wetland or digging out the wetland. Donna, it might make sense. Donna, you there? Yeah.
Yep,
It
I'm
might
here.
make sense, you know, since we can't act on this tonight anyway, it might make sense for you to go and look at this
Okay,
with Bart and just see what, if any, other safeguards could be put in place to protect the wetland from machinery.
okay.
Marge, Paul, or Anthony, or Ken, do you have any other concerns or questions?
Yeah, is the wetlands flagged out and is the garage staked out yet?
No, the wetlands, again, we're showing an approximate wetland boundaries. We did not have a soil scientist flag the boundary of the wetland. And the garage is not staked out, but something that we can do if you'd like, so.
No, I think that would make things a lot easier for Donna.
Yep.
And one of the primary ways that we're gonna avoid disturbance in the wetland is to make sure that that silt fence is the edge of disturbance, so that people know when they're doing the construction, that they don't go beyond the silt fence, so.
Good.
Okay, so Bart, maybe you could let Donna know when that's staked out, and she can take a look at it between now and our next meeting.
Sure.
And we should be able to act on it at our next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you.
I wouldn't mind a site walk at it, to have a look at it too.
All
Can
right,
we do that?
Maybe you could go with Donna.
Yes, whenever, I'm free to most, most of the time, so whenever you're ready, Donna, I'd like to look too.
okay, all right. I'm gonna be on vacation next week. So how about the week of of August 8th? Bart, would that be good? It'll be.
Sure, we could also have it flagged out in the next couple of days if that works for you.
I'd rather.
August
do-
8th,
when I
August
come
8th, I
back,
can see that's gonna work better.
a little hammered right now, so. So I will touch base with you, at the end of the week, and then we can set up a day and a time for the week of the 8th when I get back.
Sounds good.
Sound good? And Ken, I'll copy you on that as well.
Great, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Very good. So thank you all, and we need a motion to table application 1285-22.
I'll make a motion to table application 1285-22 to the next regular meeting.
Seconded,
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Great. All right. Moving on, application 1282-22, Carl Robb. This was one that I really wanted, I have to apologize to the rest of the commission. I was planning to be at the site visit and I had a meeting in Morris. And by the time I got back to my house in Kent, it was a little after 5 o'clock. And I'm so sorry. It just took longer than I thought it was going to. But if I remember correctly, and I'd love to hear about the site visit, we were concerned about whether or not there was a vernal pool on, whether this was actually a vernal pool. We were concerned about whether or not this was actually an enhancement to the wetland system or a potential destruction of it. And we were concerned a little bit about stone versus plantings. Love to hear what you guys thought. First of all, who was there on the site visit?
I went.
I did, Ken Johnson.
Marge, did you go?
Yep.
Anyone else? Okay. And Donna, obviously. So what's
And me.
mine? Was that Paul?
Yeah,
Did I not say that already, Paul?
I
I
thought you
said
did,
that.
but I wanted to
Paul.
make sure.
What'd you see?
I don't think it's a vernal pool. There wasn't any evidence really of where the water is coming from. Although there was that one place that had some rocks and some very wet ground that didn't have anything growing in it. So it was probably seeping up out of the ground there, but everything is so dry right now, it was hard to tell. I really wonder whether there's enough water to support a pond.
I see Scott's here. Hi, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Maybe you can give us a little more insight into that? Because I'm sure you've seen it earlier in the year.
Yeah, I met with Carl last, I believe, August, early September, and there was about 2 feet of water in that area that Marge was talking about. And so I believe it's some sort of a spring or something in that location, but obviously this year is a totally different story. So I believe there's water in there. It's still damp. I don't know how far down it is, but obviously there's something supporting wetlands, plants, and that ecosystem there. So I believe that there's water in it. I can't tell you much than that. That's all I know at this point.
Well, in my opinion, the water couldn't be too far below the level that we were walking at in there. And Carl talked about, he wasn't sure how they would, I asked him about how you could retain the water in the pond. And he mentioned that it could be pumped up from whatever aquifers below into the pond. And in my opinion, if that water is pumped up to make a pond, we haven't heard anything, because the water eventually seeps right back into the aquifer from the pond. And the other option that he talked about was a membrane of some kind to hold the water that would be pumped into it. And I suppose that would create a kind of a new ecosystem by making a pond like that. I don't think it would hurt anything, but it certainly would alter what is there now. And
What is there? What is there
there's-
now?
well, it's just weeds and moist, relatively damp ground underneath the weeds.
So
No water.
it's a lot of
But-
fern, definitely wetland plants, Lynn. There's a lot of fern. I can't remember what else we saw, but it's clearly
Right.
wet.
Phragmites.
Right. There were the, okay.
Yeah, at the bottom, but on the southern end, there are phragmites
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
under the
Love that.
wetland area,
which you don't want.
right?
So the question is this an enhancement of an existing larger wetland system, or is this the destruction of a small wetland system where the pond would be?
Well, in my estimation, I think it's just a minor alteration of the water that's underground, because if you look just to the north of this area, what do you find? South Spectacle Lake, right about the same level. So I think all he's doing is just taking that aquifer water and just putting it at the surface rather than having it down underneath in the aquifer. The aquifer can't be very far below
Yeah.
that level.
So again, the question is open water here a more productive wetland than the wetland that you saw?
Hey, Scott, when you were there, did you observe any test holes that had been previously dug?
No, not any test holes. No, just that one spot that is we're all talking about, that's open and very damp.
Yep.
I have a question there. What would the elevation above sea level be there at that pond versus the elevation of South Spectacle Lake?
It's pretty similar. They're both
It's
about
big.
1,200 feet.
Has to be very close, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to know, though, whether he would have to use a membrane or whether he's just pumping the water onto the surface and just letting nature take its course. And Carl did not know the answer to that question.
Judging by last year with the height of the water, I would say that the membrane would probably be useless from what I saw last year. This year, I'm agreeing with you that I feel that it's just below the surface, that it's still damp. You know, so the pond elevation might be a little bit lower this time of year than normal. But as nature fills it back up and we get more groundwater, I think it'll be back up to the original level. And we're not trying to alter the outflow of this pond either. The elevation that the water naturally flows out is where we're calling that the finished height of the pond. So we're really taking the existing grade of that open hole and digging it out about 6 feet and just creating a basin.
I'd like to compare it, if I may, to the little pond that they made in South Kent School. Is anyone familiar with the pond that's just south of the house on the corner of South Kent Road and Spooner Hill Road? There's they erected a building there, and just south of that building, they made a pond. And I followed the construction of that pond years ago, and they did put a membrane in there, and they did make a small pond out of it. And right now, there's all kinds of stuff growing all around that pond, and I don't think they affected the environment all that much, but they did have a membrane in the bottom of that particular pond.
So Paul and Marge, what do you think? And Donna, what do you think?
I just don't really like the idea of membranes. I feel that's introducing something unnatural into a wetland, but that's just my view.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
And in this case,
Yeah.
I can't see a membrane doing any good. And what Ken was talking about at the property of South Kent School, I believe that pond was made especially for agricultural use. So they had more of a reason to want to retain water for feeding animals, for watering crops, whatever. I don't see that as a benefit for a natural pond.
And it's pretty much filled in now, I think, with Phragmites. Last time I looked at it.
Yeah, there is Phragmite all around it. I agree, yes.
Isn't there a hookup too?
So
for
how
the
about,
Yeah.
road?
There is.
sorry,
And that's,
Well,
as
the
far as I remember, that was the reason it was put in.
So this area then in turn feeds another pond on the neighbor's property at a lower elevation, correct? Which then flows out somewhere, or is that just standing water there? If I'm trying to remember last week's meeting correctly.
Betty Carlson's.
Yeah, that would be the pond.
Was it not a small pond to the south of this location?
Rather large
Did
pond.
that-
It's a large pond.
Did that pond then flow out into the West Aspet, the feeder creeks to the West Aspetuck?
Well, the
I think
low
so,
area,
yeah. I mean, I think it would, if it's gonna come down Deer Mountain, it might end up in, what is that at the bottom, Mudge Pond? Or the one below Agnes Dunn's property?
Yeah, eventually Mud Pond, yeah.
Mud pond, yeah.
Oh, mud pond over that one. Okay, so not as. Okay, so this side of the ridge line from the West Aspetuck. All right, well, that's better.
Hmm.
And we're not talking about damming the water and holding it back, right? We're talking about digging a hole and letting it fill up naturally with water.
Right.
At whatever level nature says, which I think makes more sense. My question is really in terms of turning this area into a pond, or maybe back into a pond. How do you feel about that in terms of the wetland functions? You know, water
I
quality.
think it allows the water temperature to rise, no different than a beaver dam. So any of the runoff is adversely affected by standing surface water that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Except that it
Interesting.
sounds like there is normally standing surface water here. It's just not very deep.
Correct.
Am I understanding? Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
I
that
really like-
I was misunderstanding. That sounded like everyone was walking across this and it was dried out.
It is.
Yeah, right now it is dry. Right now we're in a drought.
Okay, there's no standing water in there. Your feet, when you were standing there, no water was coming up under your shoes. But if you dug and moved that dirt out of the way, it was moist.
Yeah, you could tell that there had been a little skim of standing water there fairly recently, just by the looks of it and the feel.
So how is this not a vernal pool then?
Because I just don't get the sense that it's, and there's no evidence that I saw. I just don't get the sense that this is a vernal pool.
Me neither.
I mean, it feels like there's more of a,
You've just described a vernal pool. It's intermittently wet, standing, it's
Yep.
standing water, and it's dried at this time of the year. I mean,
but vernal pools don't have an inlet and an outlet, so far as I know. Lynn?
Yeah, but again, is this an old pond? Is this an old pond? What is this?
We
Is
don't
this
know.
like a
It's
widened out
possible.
area?
It's possible that it's a silted in old pond.
But it's hard
Yeah.
to tell.
That's a-
I guess they would have called it a swampy area years ago.
Well, that's different than an
Yep.
old pond. I mean,
Right.
the area
Right.
is not something you want to dig up and get rid of, you know? That's
Right.
that's the question. You know, we've had applications in the past that have taken filling in swampy areas and kind of recreated open water within a larger wetland system to diversify the wetland experience for, you know, habitat, water quality, filtration, and those kinds of things. And I guess I really wish I'd been there, and I'm so sorry I wasn't. But that's really my question. Is this part of a larger system where a little more open water is an enhancement to those things? Or is this a little swamp that's naturally being filled in and we're trying to reverse that, which is not bad either? Or is
It's
this a
very hard to-
functioning wetland system?
It's so hard to judge, Lynn. It's so densely covered with fern. And then heading out towards Betty Carlson's, almost as far as you can see, I'm looking at the picture right now, is that same fern and the same growth. But we just didn't have any way of sensing any kind of underground water flow. I really don't think it's a vernal pool. But whether there'd actually been a pond there or not, I don't know how you could tell.
The only thing I
Okay,
want to add to that is in the area that we were standing in, and one of the pictures shows an area where there's a lot of rock exposed. That one area caught my attention
Right.
because that's where water would normally be, but it looked like water had washed across those rocks.
Right.
So water was coming in there from somewhere.
It probably from an underground, just welling up was my sense. I'm looking at it right now. Unfortunately, it's tipped on its side, so it's kind of hard to see, but that looked like the low point, but it looked like, yes, that's where the water is coming in. And I get the feeling that it probably seeps to the south towards Betty's. But whether there was,
So
to answer Lynn's question, I don't know how you would tell if there was ever a pond there before.
Okay, so let's move on.
well, the
assume
presence of the rock there is probably, yeah. If you had standing 6 feet of standing open water, it probably wouldn't have all that much, in such a small area, you wouldn't really have that rock.
well, rather than try to figure out whether there's a pond there, I guess the other way to look at this is turning this area into a pond from a wetland standpoint, which is really all we're here to represent. Is that, would that be a positive thing for this area and the greater wet area, or a negative?
I think it could be positive if it works. It
fills in.
changed the habitat a little bit. I don't see it doing any damage.
Well, I don't think it will hurt either way, because Carl talked about pumping the water up from a well to make the pond. And if the ground is so porous, that water is just going to go back into where the same place it came from. And I don't see how that would hurt anything.
I would have a concern about pumping water in, because I think then you are having an impact on downstream water supply, and I would not do that. Everybody in the area has wells. I really would not advise that. Personally.
Well, Carl mentioned, he said that he didn't know that much about how they were going to work it, but that was one of the possible options, that's all. But I don't know if they were definitely going to do that or not. That was just one of the things he said.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a good idea. I think you start getting into potential issues. I don't think the wetlands can permit something like that. We're not knowledgeable about groundwater flow, how that would impact downstream wells, ponds, and all of that.
Well, his own
Well,
too.
From a wet
To that same point, I think your question is the right question to be asking, which functions better, but do we really have the scientific knowledge to be able to answer that question either? I don't feel like we do.
I think we can determine, based on our understanding of the wetland functions that we need to protect, whether or not putting a pond here is going to expand those wetland functions or restrict them. We've done that before. If people are uncomfortable making that decision, that's another question. We could certainly ask somebody else who typically advises us on these things, whether or not it's an enhancement of the wetland or a detraction.
I'd feel comfortable with that, Lynn. I like that idea, because I really,
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, I'd feel a lot more comfortable with
Yep.
with some professional advice on that.
Yep.
I agree.
Paul?
Yeah.
All right, so Donna, I think at the Northwest Conservation District, or Cynthia, who's the gal that we've worked with separately? Or is she also at the Northwest Conservation District?
Is at the Northwest Conservation, Cynthia Rabinowitz?
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
the one, she was the one who flagged my wetlands. And she wrote a description, and she didn't seem to feel that a pond would be adverse to the wetlands.
I think it would be great for her to answer that question to us directly.
Carl, can you send me her letter? I never got that.
I had sent it, I had forwarded it to you. You never got it. Okay, I'll forward it again.
Okay, if you could, that would be great, because there might be something in her letter.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
actually
yeah, if we already
outlined,
have access to it.
Scott, didn't she outline a rough outline of the,
She did. She
The pond?
summarized it.
and she put a little sketch of where the pond would be in the wetlands.
Yeah,
And she said, and she said limit the size of it. That's really what she was concerned about, shouldn't be too much area of the wetlands, But she did.
Yeah,
So let's get that in.
Pardon?
If I could get that, that would be very helpful.
All right, let me see if I can, I think I probably can find it in my, but also Joe, why not? Also put a sketch of the pond on he put the wetlands on the survey. And he also
Yeah.
made
Well,
am I right, Scott?
Yes.
He put,
What we're
If-
really,
Scott,
let me just, I'm sorry. What we're really interested in is understanding the impact to the wetland functions, and that would be helpful. And if Cynthia is recommending a smaller size pond, that would be useful to know. And how she thinks the pond and the surrounding wetland would work together, that would be helpful. Donna, if you could get that information from her after seeing the letter, I think then we'd have more information. The commission would feel a lot more comfortable making a decision at the next meeting. That's the feeling, that's the understanding. If I'm wrong, or if the commission members want anything else, please speak up. That's the sense I'm
No,
getting from what
that,
you've all been.
that sounds good to me, and I think also having another month to kind of keep an eye on this. We're obviously about as dry as it's gonna get. We start getting a little more rain, it might help, but I would very much like an outside opinion. I'm not comfortable with this at all.
Okay. Anthony, you were gonna say something?
Oh, that was, no,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. I thought I saw you light up. All right.
Oh, no, I was
Okay.
scratching my face.
All right, so it sounds like we're in agreement. Mr. Rob, I'm sorry that we can't give you an answer tonight, but we still have some questions and we feel we need some additional expert info. So we'll put this on the agenda for the next regular meeting, and we need somebody to make a motion to that effect.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second,
Seconded.
Okay.
lots of people.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Okay, one more time, and we will see you next month. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank
All
So
right,
we
we're
can
gonna move on to-
We can sign off now, right?
Yes, unless
Yep,
you want to
can.
stay and
You're
watch.
welcome to stay, too. You can do whatever you want.
Okay. Thank you.
We're gonna move on to application 128322, Lisa from Earth Tones for Katie Freigang. And, again, I think from our last meeting, is Lisa here? I could've
Yeah,
sworn
I'm
I thought- There she is.
Hi.
Hi. I think from our last, meeting, I think we were looking for just some specific information on the site plan. I did
Yes.
not see that in my packet. I don't know if you provided that to Donna.
I did get it to Donna. Yes.
So I got it today, so I put it in the public meeting folder. So let me see if I can find it to share.
So do you feel the application is complete?
Now I do, yes.
I see it on its side, but
Let's see. Okay. Oh, this is.
nope, that's where we just were.
Okay,
No,
here we go.
there we go.
Okay, so can you see this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lisa, if you want to go ahead and explain what you filled in?
Sure. So this was the original sketch that I showed you last month. And the question was the area of disturbance for the crushed stone sleeve to allow water flowing through the swale, and then the proposed wet meadow. So I did show the area of disturbance. You can see that up there. Yeah. So it comes to about 20 foot by 35 feet would be the area of disturbance. And then on the bottom left-hand side, it says for topo, see map prepared by David Wilson, professional engineer, dated May 5th, 2001, assessor's map 16, block 25, block 23. And then I don't know if you want to show that, but yeah.
Little light.
Yeah, it's a little light. Maybe mine will show up a little better. I don't know. I can probably share my screen. Oh, that's a little better.
That's better.
All right. So what
that's the
happened was, this is a, for a septic system. So they had to do some grading, and this is nice. This shows exactly everything that you were asking about. And so what I did was I just sketched real quick the existing swale, the proposed meadow area, and then the area of disturbance. And then it shows the continued flow that it would go through that stone sleeve, and then the location of the proposed sleeve. So this shows, the topo,
The
and then it
topography,
shows the area of disturbance.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get a sense of the topography above the proposed wet meadow.
Okay, so
Right.
this is 92. This line right here,
Got it, okay. That's a hard one to see on my
Yep.
screen, okay.
and then this is 94. This
I
one, this
can't see
runs
that at
right
all.
to the
Okay.
center.
Okay, thank you.
And then you've got 96 in here.
And then, and the wetland boundary,
And so these are the wetland flag areas
got it.
right along here.
Okay. Okay, so based on that, any questions from the commission?
No,
I
that
think we've
helps.
got everything that we asked for.
Yeah,
And Donna?
I'm fine with this. I think it's gonna be great, actually.
Okay, and Lisa, is there anything else you want to add?
No, we're just gonna try to get more plants so that the water can get cleaner before it goes into the lake.
So does the commission feel like we have the information we need to act? And if so, would somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve application 1283-22.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand or both.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for bearing with us. Thanks for providing us with the information. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to
Okay,
see it.
thank you. I'll send pictures.
Good.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Donna, yeah,
Okay, all right,
Thanks.
bye.
okay. All right. Gonna move on to application 1284-22, Wayne Fontaine. And this, again, we were looking for additional information for the disturbed area and number of trees that were going to be removed, and we got a nice big map in our packets. Did everybody have a chance to look at it? And it looks like Wayne is here. Wayne, do you want to just explain what we got?
So I had our engineer just add the clearing limits that we are looking for.
Yeah.
That asked us for. I met with a couple of different land clearers to get some pricing, and we're going to do some selective clearing in certain areas because my client would like to leave every conceivable tree. So even though this is what's marked, that's the areas we'll be in, but we will be leaving anything that we can make stay comfortably.
So, I'm sorry, Wayne, again, I'm having a hard time hearing you, and I'm not sure why. I feel like you're far away. Did you mark the trees on the plan?
No, the dotted line that you see going around is the clearing limit.
Yep.
And with the land clearers, we're going to do some selective clearing inside that limit and try to leave as many large trees as we can. My client would rather not take any down if possible, but I need something for a house.
Any idea how many large trees you have in that area?
Offhand, I'm going to say probably about 40 to 50.
And what are you looking at as far as diameter versus height?
I'm sorry?
What are you looking at for the diameter of the trees?
They vary anywhere from 10 to 15, 20 inches.
I'm trying to find the wetlands on this map. Can you point that out to me, please?
So if you look at the map, you'll see there's flagging. There's a black line that has, it looks like an arrow with numbers in it. So those are the wetlands easement lines.
I see. In other words, north of the north of these arrows is the wetlands. Is that correct? Northwest of these arrows.
Yes,
It just depends on where you are. The arrow is on the inside of the wetland boundary.
So the point is pointing towards the wetlands.
Right.
correct.
Okay, that's better, yeah.
So we're looking at about 100 feet away from the wetlands.
They're only on one side.
I see no problems.
Well, the limit of disturbance is a little closer to the wetland. You know, at points like 9 and 8 and 5. But that's the limit of disturbance. See what I mean, Ken?
I don't know where you, I don't see the points you're talking about.
But on the right-hand side of the map.
Oh, I
wetland
see them.
boundary.
Yes, okay. Oh, I didn't see them on this side, yes. So that's about 60 feet away.
Yeah. But we talked about alternative locations at the last meeting, and it seemed pretty limited for a variety of reasons, including the conservation easement holder.
Right.
And, yeah. So in between the limit of disturbance lane and the edge of the wetland, you're saying it's primarily treed,
Yes,
and those trees are not going to be touched outside the limits of disturbance
no, no,
by anything? Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or concerns? Marge, Paul, Anthony,
No,
Ken Deet's gone? Looks like we lost Ken. Okay, so,
I just have one question.
ready?
You know, this doesn't have much to do with the outcome on this, but I understand the conservation needs, and it's up there in St. John's Peak, are all of the wetlands on all of the properties are in a conservation easement. And I'm just looking at the wetlands boundary line as opposed to the conservation easement line. Why is there such a variation? It was one based on an older wetlands flagging?
I would say, yes, I would say that it was based on an old flagging because the boundaries that you're seeing now, we just had done by a soil scientist a couple months ago.
Okay, I'm just curious for my own
Yeah,
information.
they're very recent, before we got the drought, so, you know, right now it may even look different.
Thank you.
But this map, both of these maps have been signed off on by the conservation easement holder, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you for the additional information. Appreciate it. Are there any other questions from Anthony or Marge or Paul or Ken
no,
or Donna?
Oh,
I'm good.
You're good, Donna?
Yeah.
Okay, then it sounds like we would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll move, do we approve application 1284-22?
Thank you. Second?
seconded.
Thank you, Ken. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Okey dokey. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your working with us and providing us with the information we need, and good luck.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very
Really
much.
appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Bye now.
Okay, so you're welcome to stay, but we're gonna move on, okay?
All right.
All right, let's move on to 5B, possible notice of violation, Stanley Greenbaum. Mr. Greenbaum is present. Hello, Mr. Greenbaum. I am just gonna react to the emails that were sent from Cynthia to you and then back, because I'm concerned that there was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding on either your part or my part. But certainly, over the last several months, I believe I've been, or tried to be, consistent in asking for a map that shows where the location of the wetlands are, and in reaching out to the Northwest Conservation District to provide that map. So I'm a little confused as to why you would think that I had asked you to provide the map. I certainly did not ask you to provide the map. It may be that you asked me a question and I answered in the affirmative, not understanding your question. But I just want to clear that up for the record. We're looking for a map of the wetland area on your property from the Northwest Conservation District so that you and this commission in the future can avoid conflicts, concerns, and back and forth arguments. So is that clear? I just really wanted to clarify your understanding of what occurred at the last meeting and at meetings before that, quite frankly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we are in the position, for those of you who read this, of waiting for Cynthia to be able to work into her schedule the ability to create the map. Stanley, I hope that you will give her permission to come onto the property when she has the opportunity to do so.
Okay, well, at the present time, I'm not going to agree to that. I have yet to review the 424 pages of documents that I requested from the land use administrator. When I've completed that process, I've been on vacation for a couple of weeks, then we can have a conversation about it. But up until now, the misrepresentations here have been unbelievable. Your land use administrator has insisted vociferously that activity was occurring in a wetland. Cynthia determined that it was not a wetland. There has been no other activity. Not, apples and oranges. It's not.
Look, Stanley, we're trying to answer that question about where the wetland boundary is so that we can avoid this conversation with you in the future, like I'm sure you would like to do.
Well, you know what? It's taken 40 years to have this conversation for the second time. I can wait another month or two.
Sure, that's fine. I just want you to be clear that that's why we're doing this. It's not to punish you or to extend your frustration with us. It's simply to solve the riddle.
Well, we're going to clear up whether or not there was a violation here. There was no violation.
Wouldn't the map do
And then
that?
you'll have,
Wouldn't the map show us? And then we would say,
I'd
okay,
like to-
violation or not? Where's the
Well, I've
map?
just spent $200 on copies of files, so I'm going to go through the record and we'll determine whether or not the record supports my point of view.
that's fine. That's fine. I believe Cynthia has some of the information she needs, but she needs to get back onto the property to verify that. If you want to take the time to do that, that's fine. I just have a question for Donna. Donna, is there any kind of timeline ticking with regard to a potential violation that we need,
No.
the commission needs to bear with us?
Not yet, no.
Okay,
There's no time limit.
Well, you
Okay,
haven't cited me
so-
for a violation, so this can't go on forever. Either you're going to cite me for a violation.
Well, I
Once-
can't
once
decide
we have-
that until I have the map from Cynthia.
once we have the
Okay.
information we need, we'll make a determination one way or the other. It sounds like you just expressed, and I want to make sure I understand this, that you would like a month to go through the materials, and then you will consider scheduling a site visit with Cynthia to complete the mapping process. Is that correct?
I will make an appointment with Donna when she returns from vacation on the 8th of August to do a further review of some of the materials that she has given me. That's the next step.
Well, to be fair to Ms. Rabinowitz, we need to actually give her a sense of timing because she's not just sitting there waiting for work. She's got a pretty tight schedule of her own.
Well,
And
she's
we
not the only
indicate to
soil
her that
scientist in the state of Connecticut.
We indicate to her that she can come out and look in the next month or two, that that's your intention? Or no?
I'm not going to express an intention at this time.
Okay, then we're gonna keep this potential violation on the record, okay? We'll just have to keep it open until we have an answer.
Well, I think you have to make a determination whether you are saying there's a violation or not. I don't think you get to do this month after month.
We need the information in order to do that, and that's what we're going to do until we get the information.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Greenbaum?
Nope.
Any questions, Stanley? Any other questions, Stanley?
I do not have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, anything else to come before the commission? I didn't see financials, but I bet that's because it's so early in the fiscal year, Donna.
Yeah, so I was not able, she's, hasn't done them yet. She hasn't done the year end, and so she hasn't done the month yet, so, we'll
Really
be,
tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough time of year. We're trying to do that too. Our fiscal year ends at the end of June, and it's hell. All right. Anything else to come before the commission?
yeah, for verbal, a couple of things. I'm gonna be on vacation, like I had said earlier, next week, just for the week of, August 1st, and I'll be back August 8th.
Okay.
And,
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
okay, I got a notification from Brian Wood that, the work that was done at the 3 properties next to Lake Warma, has been completed. And, Rob and I went down there, we took a ride. It looks really nice. And especially, not Craig, Bayless, the one closest to the state park. That was the one that had the most work done. It came out really nice. It really
Good.
did. Yeah, so.
Can you take some pictures? Can you take some pictures for the file?
But it was a busy afternoon, on the lake road, and my husband is screaming, "Hurry up, we're gonna get rear-ended." So I'll go back and I'll pick up some more. The other thing I realized while I was doing that was, and I don't remember if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, and you guys all laughed at me, but that Craig Bibb had done all that cutting in his front yard. And you had said, please put it on the calendar for, I guess it must have been a year. I think it was, maybe even 2.
I remember.
Remember? And I was like, I'm gonna put it on my calendar, and it did come up. And so while we were looking at the 3 properties along the river, I did look at Craig's property, and it filled in very nicely. It really did. I mean, I think, what he chose to do while, I was a doubting Thomas, he proved me wrong, and it looks good.
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe a picture for that for the file would be helpful too,
Yeah.
with just a note to file. Well
Yep.
done.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take a ride. If I ever get out from being chained to my computer, I'm gonna take
Yep.
a ride and go see what that file looks like.
Yep.
That's,
I mean,
thank you.
naturally, things are gonna need to grow in a little bit. Next year, it's gonna look even better, but the Bayless property was the one that had the biggest, and it really looked good. I was invited by our first selectman to go to a meeting in Warren with the selectmen of Warren, Washington, and then the zoning enforcement officers. And it ended up being that the first selectman from Washington decided not to meet with the zoning enforcement officers at this point in time. But I did find out from Marty Connor at a meeting I saw him on Friday, that the issue is that Warren has been very lax in the permits that they have been approving with regard to construction along the lake, especially in Arrow Point. And so they seem to be pushing towards a more generalized or standard building requirements from a zoning perspective, so as to not impact the lake. You know, so
I think we're doing a great job, quite frankly. We wouldn't want to relax our standards, would we?
no,
No,
not at all.
no.
Not at all. And I said that to Marty, and I said, look, I don't know if you're still involved or if you're not involved, but quite honestly, I don't think we have any reason to participate in this meeting, and it scares me that the first selectman is getting involved in this meeting. And I said, because we have a Lake Wormwood overlay district from a zoning perspective, and we only have 3 properties. They have been built on, and so I don't think it really concerns us.
Yeah,
But we'll see what happens. And then Marty said, well, I'm really not involved with them anymore because I was sending them bills for my consultation, and they decided they paid me enough. So I said, okay, fine. Well, and he said, you're right. He goes, you do a good, anyway, so I won't be attending, I don't think anyway, that meeting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There's some serious stuff happening on that lake that you really have to wonder about in terms of its ultimate impact on the lake. But I think we've done a good job from a wetland standpoint. I don't know I think they should be following our lead.
I think so. I definitely agree with you. And I don't think that it's really the issue from the zoning enforcement officer or from the inland wetlands agent, because all of the work has to go in, anything that's proposed has to go in front of their inland wetlands commission. So it's really the training of their inland wetlands commission that they should be concentrating on, as opposed to, because you're there, it's not the inland agent that's giving them the approvals. So
I think that's a good point.
But
very good point. I had one question about the job description posting. It sounds like we're moving a little more slowly in that arena, or no?
I was going to put it up today, but Joyce and Darlene were both out, so I can't put things up on the website. Darlene has to do it, so she'll be in tomorrow.
But we really ought to take a look at it before you post it and make sure that we're comfortable.
I think if we look at the job description itself, I looked at it. I don't think it needs to be changed. And if we decide to change it, it's got to go to the selectmen first. And that's going to open up a whole thing.
Is it the same job description that we used to hire you? Because that was put together very carefully between the Inland Wetlands Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission.
It's basically, it is basically the same. I think it was just fine tuned a little bit because I had in 2020, because I think that's when it was approved.
I'd really like to see it. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. I'd really like to see it.
It was in the meeting folder for last month.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And
your video is off.
Yeah, my power. I think I just hang on a sec. I don't know. Well, anyway, as long as you can hear me, we'll just wrap this up. I'm sorry I didn't see it in the packet. I'll go back and look.
Yeah, you can pull it up online. It's right there.
Where online?
If you go into the packets, it gives the month by month that you can go back 1 month and pull up what we had.
Okay.
And the summary is there.
If you can't find it, Lynn, I'll email it to you tomorrow.
I'm not going to look for it tonight, so don't worry about it. I'll find it, or I'll get it from you. You want to put it up on the website tomorrow? Is that right?
Yeah, I figured if I could get it up by the end of the day, would that be good for you?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll have a chance to find it by the end of the day tomorrow. I got a lot going on.
what I'll do is I'll email you a copy tonight. You could see it first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's fine. I appreciate that. If you can easily do it, it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So I'm sorry, I'm running on battery. I'm not sure what happened here, but was there anything else to come before the commission? Do you want to hang? Are we ready? We ready to have
Yep.
a motion to? Yes, she is. Done. Do we have a second? Paul?
I'll second.
Yes, we do. All right. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thank you.
For good enough.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Good night, all.
Stay cool.
Good
Night.
night.
Stay cool. Bye.